are listening to the Stay at Home Rockstar podcast, the podcast that is dedicated to motivation through inspiration. Hey guys, welcome to the Stay at Home Rockstar podcast. And in this series, I'm calling up some of the most amazing people and internet friends that I have never met in person, but have developed a respected and honest friendship through the power of the internet. Today, I want you to meet my bro, Mark Bunton. He's a retired Army medic. He's a musician. He's a phenomenal writer and expressionist, and a truly nice guy that you could only hope that you can have as a friend. I want to thank you for being here with me today, my bro.
Wow, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
In the old days, I had to meet a friend like at school or on your street. Maybe you went to summer camp or something and you got to meet a new friend, you know? But at our age and stuff, to actually develop some kind of serious, intellectual, funny, moving forward kind of relationship. You know, what's great about these internet relationships is that they're not taxing like a real relationship.
Right.
And I say this in the coolest way possible. I'm not always there and you're not always there, but when we are together, we actually accomplish something that could be way more than if we spent more time together and we were maybe neighbors, you know? It's kind of crazy.
As long distance neighbors, there you go.
How did we meet, bro?
I started spotting some of your videos and demos that you do, and compared to what I see out there, I mean, there's a lot of great musicians out there.
Oh yeah.
There was just something about you that like just popped. You got the full package, you know. I mean, there's a million bass players out there, and there are a million good bass players out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just something different about you that just kind of popped out at me. From there, it just kind of took on a life of its own. You know, I mean, you were decent enough to respond. I think I may have shot you a message or something, or just through comments, and then we just kind of built it from there. One of the main things that I respect about you is that you are responsive and genuine and real. There's like really someone on the other end, and it's not just some bullshit artist doing a job. I mean, it's the real person. It's not, you know, a street team or somebody like that doing the work for them. It's kind of cool that you get your hands dirty and you get out there and it's the real deal on the other end, you know.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, I feel the same way about you. I can tell you that, you know, when I was younger and I used to play in clubs and whatnot, I used to do some pretty crazy stuff. Like at the end of every night, I would virtually stand at the front door and shake the hand of every drunken and non-drunken person that had watched us and was leaving. And I would say, I want to thank you for spending the evening and taking the time to listen to us. You know,
I used to do a very similar thing. You know, I mean, I made it a point to hurriedly get my stuff out of the way and then get out into the crowd while they're still got us in mind, whatever project I might have been in at the time. But I would definitely make an effort to get around the room, and I was definitely way more social than I am now. You know, at least a hello or whatever. I thanked everybody.
I couldn't agree with you more. When you first start out and you go out and you're on the road, we'd go into these different towns and stuff. And what would happen is the band members, you know, they want to stay up late, they drink, they party, then they get up late. And what they want to do is they want to go check out the town, right? Like, let's see what's happening in here in the day and stuff. I was truly the opposite guy. I would get up early and I would go to the stage where my gear was.
Right.
Every freaking goddamn day that we were in that town. And I would play the entire set by myself.
Oh, wow.
And then I would write music.
Right.
I would write songs because I was the guy who was writing the original songs. And they were always out there. And they always just tell me, oh, you're taking yourself a little too seriously there, you know? Before you can prove anything to anyone else, you have to prove something to yourself. That is the fucking discipline and the respect that happens when you develop meaningful relationships. And it doesn't matter whether one person does one thing better than the other, or one person is at a higher stature than another or a less stature than another. There's a way to speak to people and get something from everyone. And if you follow through, wow, the benefits, I think, are just amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny because you used a term that I used to hear quite a bit, which is the too serious. You're too serious. Mm-hmm. It's just funny to me because, man, I heard that so much. In the early years, I was a rehearsal junkie. You know, I mean, I just practice makes perfect, you know, and we'd practice our asses off. And 90% of the time, I don't even know why, because we'd get into a club and everything would change. You know, you'd go from having a 40-minute set to things running behind, and now you got 20 minutes. But for the most part, nothing ever really went the way we were expecting it to. So
Hmm.
it was just kind of funny because a lot of the guys, like, they'd want to take it very lackadaisical and just fly by the seat of our pants or whatever. But I was always in that frame of mind where, I wanted to be prepared for the shit getting cut down to 20 minutes. What works better together? How can we tie this to that? All those kind of little things. And like when you were mentioning going to the clubs ahead of time, I kind of feel like stages are a lot like instruments to me in a way.
Oh, fuck yeah.
One stage to another is completely different energy going on there. Like to me, I've always felt like every instrument, even if it's a piece of shit or something really high shelf, they all have magic of their own. And to me, some of them have a little magic. Some of them have a lot of magic. And by magic, I just mean, inspiration or ideas that just come from that instrument.
I feel the same fucking way that you do about that. Today we're talking about stuff we've never talked about.
Right.
But it was interesting what you said when you get too serious. But here's what happens after you get really serious in the beginning when we're younger,
Right.
When it comes to time to slack off like everybody else, your version of slack
Yeah.
has nothing to do with their version of slack, because anything that comes up, experience will give you an instant idea how to deal with shit on the fly. That's improvisation. Imagine being able to improvise like freely on the fly, but having an amazing bag of tricks
Oh, yeah.
for you to draw from an empty head to all of a sudden, boom! Oh, I'm just going to this in real time. And these become your accessible trigger points that you can use.
Right. Totally. Oh, I hear you, man. I can remember like 15, 16, and the first time jamming with, some guys where they decided to just break off into a tangent on stage, something that I had never done up to that point.
Yeah.
It was like utterly terrifying. I mean, it could have been a moment for me to like really shine, but I kind of choked on it. Instead, I just fell back on something that was comfortable just to survive it. But, you know what I mean? But now it's like if somebody wants to try to throw that at me, like you're saying, man, I got a bag of tricks that I can go to, no problem.
My whole stay-at-home rock star concept is all about helping people develop their love and understanding that working from home can wind up being a completely different experience, like, say, the past. Like, I know if you go back 20 years, if you were working from home, it meant like, this guy doesn't have no money, can't afford an office, he doesn't have a secretary, he can't be good. And then I remember it became a trend for people to build an attachment to their home, to get their offices separated from their home, but still on their property, so that they could control monthly overhead, travel time, convenience. Maybe they have kids and they want to really get efficient. I remember when that started happening, I said, wow, that's really cool. I remember calling people sometimes and they pick up and they're agents, right? And then I hear the babies like screaming so loud in the background that they have to say, hang on a minute. Every time I heard something like that, I was saying, okay, this is not really like super pro.
Right.
Now, today, what is happening is it's the complete opposite. Giant companies for years have employed programmers that do not need to come in to work, that work from all around the world, that are sunk up to a project, and they just have to deliver what they need to deliver, their parts, their things, boom, bang, it gets done. They get paid from home. I'm one of the originator guys to do that from the very beginning. I've always done that. I've always believed in it. And I believe that it is the future, especially for younger people and especially for older guys who are going to be reinventing their lives. And, you want to keep this efficient. You got injured in the army. So the future is all about reinventing yourself and traveling the world with your work, your dreams, like straight from what I call the convenience of your own home. I want to talk about some of those aspects.
Okay.
What are some of the parts that excite you about this? Is it something that you've thought of, that you crave, something that, in the situation that you're at? To me, it's the logical thing to do.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm excited. To be honest with you, I was a little, I'd say, intimidated at first because, like, before I went into the military, I mean, I was hungry, and I mean hungry musically, artistically. I knew what I wanted. I knew we were going after it. And the group that I was with, I believed that we were all on the same page in that respect until maybe the latter years of the project. And we were together, probably 16 years before I had to make some dramatic changes in my life. But the military, I had to put things on hold for a little while, but I always knew that, hey man, I'm going to come back to this. Right now I'm doing what I have to do. But I mean, I believe through and through that every single person is meant to be something. And I've always been a musician, even before I played. That hasn't changed just because I'm older. It's more refined as to what I want to do musically myself. It was intimidating simply because before I went into the military, I had a group. I had guys that I could lean on, other ideas, coming into the picture and kind of having to find common ground. And that became a ritual with us. Now I have the freedom of doing whatever the hell I want. If anything, that's the intimidating factors, because sometimes I can get lost in that.
So you got to be your own boss for real now. No people to bounce on. I mean, you can get advice from people and stuff like that. But I totally agree. That transition of becoming something new with a bunch of things that you're actually really good at is a very interesting and scary transition, especially when you do it from home, because staying at home usually means if you're not careful, it is very easy to really become inefficient because you're at home. You might decide, oh, let me just sit down and have a sandwich. Oh, something's on TV. Let me watch it.
Absolutely.
So there's an amount of discipline that needs to come to work from home.
Oh, absolutely.
I believe in you can only make a first impression once. If I lived in a freaking box with nothing, I would virtually take one wall on that box and make it look perfect in front of a camera. So that if I was talking to people on the web and stuff, what would happen is I would face that wall and I could even be in my fucking underwear and they would never know it. But from here up, everything would be killer.
Right.
And then the rest of the place could look like a fucking dump even, or like everything's exposed and you see the wiring and shit, and you would never know. But it's about taking it that seriously. And just because you're at home, it doesn't mean you're not going to get up like if you were going to a real job. That's the thing that people got to understand. Treat yourself like you're the client for your own projects and your own goals, because if you don't, nobody's going to do it for you. Somebody else needs to be your boss. Somebody else will live your dream.
Right, absolutely. I definitely think that you have to have that kind of discipline. The realistic thing is to set goals for yourself. Even if you fall short, give yourself, something to work towards. When I was referring to like an intimidation factor, and this is just me, and a lot of artists are similar, I can get lost in my own head with the things that I want to do and like kicking around ideas and things like that. So like refining my ideas can take a little time sometimes. Sometimes I know right where I want to go with something. Now, other times I want to wander about. But I personally think working from home, musically and artistically, it's way more convenient, it's just more logical. I mean, you're talking about back in the day where people were adding additions to their home and all that. I had leased a building for 11 years. That was an expense that I just saw as absolutely necessary. And if I could have put that thing in my yard, it would have just meant that now I have another hour or two that I can put in working. So doing it from home to me just makes sense. That's actually smart.
Part of what I'm getting is I'm saying you love all this, you want to get all this done, but you and probably millions of other people feel the same way when it comes to starting something from home, something that is new. And it seems to be where how can you trust yourself to finish something or to commit to something in a way that you can repeat it like if you were actually working for someone else, but it was yours, right?
Right.
Okay, if people take too long to make decisions, then one thing leads to another and another door opens up. And before you know it, you're not even hovering on a riff problem anymore. You don't like the sound. You don't like the beat. You want to change everything. You're not sure. And fucking nothing gets done. Okay, when I hear you and then I think, okay, if you were in the army, well, the army has a regiment, right?
Right.
Of a beginning, middle, and an end, and a set of rules that is disciplinary that cannot be fucked with. It's like a clock.
Right.
Correct, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that is one of your built-in skill sets. I would say that without even knowing what you were going to do, transferring that part of you onto your work at home goals. And this goes for everybody out there. You might have been a foreman. You could have been a boss. You might have even been a head packer, right? But that means you understand discipline, in, out, getting shit done, et cetera, et cetera. That is the aspect that needs to be brought on to the execution of what we are trying to achieve as home, as in your case, artists and not questioning yourself. You know why? Because the internet moves so fast that, especially at the beginning, the most important thing is to start building confidence and a reputation. I believe in spitting out stuff fast, using your first take shit and keeping it really short, and you keep moving. So what happens is at the same time, you develop your skills, you get a fan base, you develop your fan base ears to your growth and style, and you will react to that as they will react to that. Way more useful and engaging, and especially for the person doing it, because they are getting what I call pretty much instant gratification. Now, instant gratification versus hovering over, oh my fucking God, I need to do 3 or 4 more songs, 10 songs so I can pick the best one. And then that's what I'll launch, right? Guys, all the greatest shit and all the greatest music on earth that everybody's been imitating, these motherfuckers dropped this shit before noon. Entire records were done within a couple of days and within the week.
That's so true.
Okay, so that's what we need to capture. I think that's a very important aspect. Because this is one of the things, obviously, that falls into the scared department. Scared is not a good word, but the department where you don't feel as solid.
Right. It's challenging.
What are you going to fucking do about it then?
Right. Yeah, I hear you, man.
Listen to me. You know what procrastination does?
Well,
2 things that people do at home too, and so, okay? Procrastination and overanalyzation, especially when you're a really smart person, right? Let's say there's a book where you can learn a lot of shit. There's 2 kind of people. They're going to have to read the whole book. They might want to read it twice. And then after they read that book, they're going to look for more books that are kind of like that, right?
Right.
This is what I do. I read 15, 20 pages, and I get the whole thing, and I move on, and everything changes.
Right.
Now, even say you didn't learn some other shit that was in the book that you should have read it. This is like the short song thing I'm telling you about.
Right.
What happens is, wow, I just discovered and got inspired and elevated, right, in the first 10 pages. So now what do? Do you kind of go through it and then your energy lumps down, it comes back up, you're thinking, and then you forget about that magic twinkle that you had there, right?
Right.
And how much information can one digest anyway? So for me, what happened is I react on the first inspirational stuff, and then I deal with it, and then go back and keep reading the book.
You have musicians and then you have artists, and then sometimes you get lucky and you have one that's both. What I mean by that is like, to me, musicians are guys that will know everything they need to know in and out with their instrument. And then you have artists that are just creative people that they would create, whether it be music or painting or whatever. And there's a huge difference. I've worked with some guys that they always like feel like they have to have the best of the best of the best. Mm-hmm. A lot of stuff just waits because, the mic they have isn't the right mic or the whatever, they could do better. To me, that's like a void that you're never going to get out of. You're just going to fall into that. An artist is going to take MacGyver style. I've got duct tape and and they're going to walk out of there with a fucking song or a hit or something. You know what I mean? I mean, to me, that's like a void that you're never going to get out of. You're just going to fall into that.
Horrible.
An artist is going to take MacGyver style. I've got duct tape and and they're going to walk out of there with a fucking song or a hit or something. You know what I mean? Trying to find middle ground with the 2 different sorts. That right there is a challenge.
You can do that really fast with what I'm fucking telling you. Shorter, quicker examples by default will heed more confidence and proof of content. Listen to this word. I've coined this motherfucking thing. It's going to be on a t-shirt. Proof of content might as well be like proof of who you fucking are. Anybody can put something out. To be consistent and disciplined and tie your dream to a line that follows itself up instead of down is actually like taking little kitty blocks and saying block 1, block 2, block 3, and you just keep counting. You don't need to know what you're going to do. And that's the exciting part. What a great part. It's like going to fucking Toys R Us. I don't know. I love it. And I think that is probably one of the things that really holds people back. And having them work at home could even make it worse, actually, because you need to be more solid. It should work to your advantage. Nobody's looking at you. What if you're more comfortable just working in your underwear?
Right.
like I remember that Fred Flintstone episode where the guy could only sing like a motherfucker in a shower, right? So when he wasn't in the shower, he sounded like shit. So when he had to do the show, they had to virtually bring out a shower, and then he was singing like fucking Pavarotti, right?
Right.
Well, it's kind of like that.
Right.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. I don't mean to interrupt or change the subject.
Yeah.
But the project that you're working on, to me, that's a prime example of just some decency, dude, that deserves respect, man. Most people, like, think way back in the days of, Robert Johnson, stuff like that. They didn't want to be recorded, didn't want to be filmed, none of that kind of shit, because they had a bag of tricks and they didn't want anybody else to know it. The fact that you're willing to expose people, regardless of where they're at in their journey musically, to help them in the, every step of the way, the things that they haven't even begin to think of yet, that right there in itself, man. I mean, it's like most people are not willing to give that kind of info away. You're kind of like that magician that wore a mask and like exposed all the illusions. You're bringing it right into somebody's home and like saying, hey man, you decide what it is you want to do, and here's the tools you're going to need to get there. Dude, who does that? You know what I mean? Like it really, that deserves respect. If people, in the future when they're looking into this thing, they really have to tip their hat to you, man. I mean, you deserve, you know what I'm saying? You really do.
Well, thank you. I can't thank you enough, and I have to tell you, in essence, as you get older, like I'm pushing 60 now, and I'm calming down. My skill sets are at its highest point they've ever been, and I'm able to make decisions that are based on less and not more. It's something that happens where at this point you can now evaluate what you consider true importance, right? Like in friends and love, and in actually getting to where you gotta go. So for me, working with someone like you, trying to spread what I consider to be my true life experience, because I'm very lucky in love with the person that I'm with. And I know you're one of those persons too, which is for another conversation, but we both totally respect our wives, and we both know just what kind of imperative support tool and human beings that they are, and the angels that they are in helping us move forward and supporting our dreams. Most people need to understand that will be the most important part when it comes to before the creation, because this is part of your life. Everything needs to be in sync. She doesn't have to be in your band with you. He doesn't have to be in the band with her, but there's got to be some kind of happy tie-up where everybody is happy for what everybody is doing, and everybody's nice to everybody and supportive, complimentary in a real way, not a fake way, so that you can always feel new birth of shit that you don't even know is going to be born yet. But like I like to say, you just know it feels good, so it's got to be fucking great in the end. You know what I mean? Seeing that most people are going to be working at home, and it's my message. It's going to be truly, I don't want to use this word, but it has to be my legacy, because after performance and working with some of the biggest companies on earth, I believe that the real people that are going to change the face of entertainment are people like you.
Wow.
You guys are the guys that are going to reinvent everything. I've learned that commitment goes beyond the skill set, because with commitment, you can learn that skill set. Having a great skill set and no commitment means you know how to do something great that you don't fucking do, and nobody's ever going to fucking know it, right? So kind of courses that I'm going to be putting out. The first one I'm going to do, it's done. This one's going to be in all audio. It's going to be all about how you think, how you act before creation even begins. Everything I've ever learned about that. And in 31 minutes, this should inspire pros and people who don't even play at all, and everybody in between, to say, what the fuck is this?
That's awesome.
Guys, you have been tripping out with my bro that I met on the freaking internet, that has become an amazing friend that I've never met in person yet, but will, my friend, Mark Bunton.
Oh, no problem, Momo. I appreciate it. Appreciate you, man.
Me too, my bro.
This is Mark Bunton, and you're listening to the Stay at Home Rockstar Podcast.
You've been listening to the Stay at Home Rockstar Podcast. For more episodes and videos, go visit thestayathomerockstar.com. You guys totally